Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I've gotten a lot of questions recently from fans and viewers out there that wanted to know the difference for me between fishing a five fish tournament and a total weight format. Now, if you followed along with me for a while now, you know I've been fishing professional level tournaments. This is my 14th year. And all of those up until now have been five fish total weight formats, meaning you go out, we're allowed to weigh five fish. You bring your five biggest fish back to the weigh-in, and at that point, that's your weight for the day. Well, this season, I qualified to fish the Bass Pro Tour, which is a total weight format, meaning we have a minimum limit in terms of a size, and then the total number of bass that we catch over that minimum weight limit is my weight for the day. So if I catch 22 pounders, I have 40 pounds for the day. Very, very different tournament formats. Now, there's several things I'd like to point out here. There's really a handful of main differences, and I don't know that I've got a preference one over the other. As a tournament angler, I've always just been a fan of tell me what the rules are, I'll go out and do it. And that's still kind of how I feel. But there are major, major differences between the two formats that I don't think most anglers will recognize until you partake in them. So the first one with respect to that is the amount of pressure and the excitement level that goes into a total weight format. For me, it's actually been a pretty big adjustment because I've spent a lot of my career trying to manage my emotions on the water. I do not want myself to get overly excited. If I feel my heart rate start to pump faster, I know at that point I'm probably fishing too fast. So I really have spent a lot of time trying to be very even keel on the water. You don't generally see me doing a Mike Iaconelli type thing, which is fine. I mean, that's what works for him. I would much rather catch a giant, put it in the live well, or weigh it and move on to the next fish. And you almost have to have the mindset that, of forgetting of that big fish because you don't want it to get you to the point of being overly excited. At least for me, that's what works. The total weight format, though, is nonstop pressure and excitement. So every time you catch a fish, you hear what the score tracker's doing, and you got to catch fish just to stay up with the rest of the guys. So it is a really crazy competitive environment. If you're fishing a five fish format, generally you know where you need to get to, meaning you do some research before you get to the lake, and the lake says, hey, tournaments are won with 17 to 20 pounds. Well, when you get to 17 to 20 pounds, you kind of know you've gotten to the point where you cap out. So, especially in a multi day tournament, that gives you the ability to make some adjustments. So, the first thing is just the amount of pressure. I think if you were to talk to BPT anglers who have fished both formats, they would say the total weight format is ridiculously stressful and exciting at the same time, which is one of the issues I think BPT has to figure out. Extremely exciting for the angler, not nearly as exciting for the fan or the viewer, just simply because they're more concerned generally about who's winning. The anglers are much more concerned about like cut lines and check lines, meaning, if there's a certain payout spot and they need to be above that to get a bigger check, that means a lot more to the angler than it does to the fan. In fact, most cases I'd say the fans aren't even familiar with the payout levels to begin with. So there is a little bit of a disconnect there, but overall, much, much different level of stress and excitement on the Bass Pro Tour. Now, the second thing has to do with what I just said. If you know what is a good bag or what the lake kind of tops out at for a five fish derby, you kind of know where you need to get. And that gives you the ability to really practice a little bit if you happen to get to that level. It also helps you determine kind of what size fish you need to be going after. That kind of gets all thrown out the window with a total weight format. You may be on a lake that produces 17 to 20 pound bags, which means you need a 4 pound average for a good five fish format. But having said that, you could win a derby with all 2 pounders in a total weight format if you catch enough of them. So, from the standpoint of knowing what you need, you don't ever really know what you need in a Bass Pro Tour event or a total weight format because the quality fish could be different. You could win it on 10 4-pounders, you could win it on 22-pounders. And a good example of that would be me fishing Santee Cooper earlier this year, where I zeroed the first day, but because of total weight format, I was able to have, I think I had the second best weight on day two, which means I shot all the way up the leaderboard, made it inside the top 20, got a nice paycheck, and got out of there. That was never a possibility in a five fish derby because you get so capped out at what five fish can do for you. So again, different right there. Not saying one's better than the other, just saying that there are major differences with respect to that. And because of that, the third biggest difference is kind of your practice. Generally speaking, what I've been trained to do is try to find the biggest quality fish in a derby or in practice to go catch in the tournament. Well, again, that's not necessarily the case. In a total weight format, I think you're almost better off looking for just straight schools of fish. And generally, your schools are going to be smaller on average than say what you're going to catch from a loner style fish. So my practice in the past generally had more to do with trying to find isolated cover or isolated fish where I thought my average size was better. I knew I could go out and get 7 to 8 bites and potentially have a good bag because of the way I was fishing. Well, that 7 to 8 bites on a lake that's got a good quality, healthy fish population is not going to be nearly enough to do well in a total weight format. So I really think from a strategy standpoint of practice, you're looking for different things. You're not looking for those little hidden, gems where maybe you can go in and find one or two fish, because there you're not going to find enough of those in practice to be able to compete in a total weight format, especially for a new a, a tournament that's got a bunch of different days to fish. In a single day tournament, maybe you can make that work. But in a multi day tournament, generally having those little hidden little holes aren't going to do you much good. You really need to try to find those bigger schools of fish, or at least areas that have much better concentrations of fish so that you can cover enough water without wasting a whole bunch of time. So my practice completely different now than it was in the past. Uh, the next biggest difference obviously has to do with, the actual weighing of fish. So in your five fish derby, whether you're doing a weigh-in or a catch weigh release versus a total weight format where you're catching and releasing on the spot. Generally speaking, a five fish tournament means you're putting them in your live well, you're taking them back to a weigh-in site, and you're weighing them in, then releasing them there. Versus total weight, I can't have more than a state regulation number of fish in my live well. So it's all catch, weigh, release on the spot. Personally, I think that is a much better thing for the fishery. I don't think the fish go through nearly as much stress when you catch them, release them on the spot. They stay in the exact same spot you caught them, which is the area that they're living in. And overall, much, much better for the fishery. Now, I would counter that though by saying that the weigh-ins can be very exciting. From a tournament angler perspective, it's very, very entertaining to take a big bag of fish to a weigh-in stage, get to hold them up in front of the cameras, get to have the crowd be excited for you, especially when you're talking about a championship event like the Bassmaster Classic. There was an arena full of people to watch people weigh in fish. We didn't have that at the Red Crest. So there's kind of two sides to that. More exciting to take your fish to the weigh-in site, much healthier for the fish population, let them go on the spot. The other thing I will say, as an angler, it is really nice not to have to worry about my fish care. Meaning, if I've got fish in my live well all day, I'm generally checking my live well, putting additives in, making sure the fish are good. It takes away from my concentration fishing. Total weight format, put them on the scale, weigh them, let them go. You don't have to worry about how your live wells are doing, whether you're running batteries down from running live wells all day. So that's definitely a nice feature as well. The last and potentially again one of the bigger things from a tournament standpoint is the overall strategy that goes into fishing a five fish derby versus a total weight derby. Generally speaking, you can salvage five fish derbies much easier. Meaning you may not have had a good practice. You can go wing it, you can go, run around, you catch 5 fish, you could potentially win that tournament. It's never going to happen with a total weight format. There's always going to be somebody that's catching good numbers of fish, and the size doesn't matter. So the strategy, like I said, from even practice changes, but even in the tournament, it's much, much different. I personally find myself not wanting to move around or run around because I know the clock is ticking while I'm driving the boat. So if I've got a big run of, 15 miles from one spot to another spot, I'm less likely now to want to make that run because it's going to take me 15 minutes. When I make that 15-minute run, the score tracker is going to be going off. People are catching fish, and I'm not even fishing. In a 5 fish derby, I was much more willing to run from location to location, even if I had to make a 2-hour run to get to a spot. Because if I got there and I felt confident that I was going to catch 5 good quality fish, I may only need 5 casts, and I could then spend the rest of the time getting back to my spot. You can't do that nearly as much in a total weight format. You really got to have areas that have good concentrations of fish. So even in the tournament, much different strategies in terms of how to go about your day, and that's something I'm still trying to learn what's best for me. I watch a lot of what I watch with respect to total weight format and the Bass Pro Tour is what is the decision making that the best anglers are making. It's not really, I don't really care about how they're catching them or what they're doing. I'm really trying to watch them more with respect to what their decision making is because I want to see when they make certain decisions and why they do it because that to me is still new. That's something I'm still learning. Uh, so they're completely different formats. I don't know that I have a preference. I truly enjoy both. I do miss having, 5 fish derbies some. And at the same time, I love the idea of running up weight, throughout tournaments, like just catching and releasing, catching, releasing. I've had 3 derbies now, and in every one of those derbies, I've had kind of a bad day and I've had another good day. And you see how quick you can move up the scoreboard when you're having that good day. It's just a matter for me of putting together 2 really good days so that you can make it on to the next round. But it's one of those things, it's an exciting format. You are starting to see total weight formats pop up now in local areas as well. I know up here in the upper Midwest, we have the classic bass circuit. I have fished that numerous times. It's great, great format, total weight format, very fun and entertaining. So if you have the ability, I do recommend trying it as an angler because I think you might find it is a cool, fun format to fish. Uh, Anyways, that's my take on it. Hopefully that answers the questions that I've been getting regarding the differences between the two. I'm just happy to be fishing for a living. So from that standpoint, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you got other questions, put it up in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please hit that subscriber button. Great way to support the channel. And stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.